I bought the ebook, downloaded it, and read it in its entirety because that's the sort of
Yeah.
person I am.
Yeah.
And then I found out it was perfectly pitched at me at this point in my life.
So yeah, Zach, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on, and just for anyone who might be watching this or who's reading about this, Zach has recently bought the Never Too Old to Lift ebook, and he's joined the Workout Accountability Facebook group, and he's been really forthcoming in there and sharing his experience. And I've reached out to Zach, and he's allowed us to just listen to kind of some of his motivations and how he's finding it, and we can potentially keep track of how he's doing later on. So yeah, thank you, Zach, for that.
Pleasure.
So I suppose best place to start is if you're able to tell us just a little bit about yourself and your history with regards to exercise, and then we can explore that a little bit more.
Right, I was 62 a couple of weeks ago, which is quite relevant, I think.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to start with my past with exercise?
Let's start with gym-based work first. Have you done much of that in the past?
Yes, I have. I did in my late teens and early 20s. I did quite a bit of weight training.
Yep.
Bruce Lee, that shows me age now, was big, and I did some karate and kung fu, and played a lot of team sports. I was in a tug of war team for a number of years, and I used to run 6 miles a week.
Yep.
Twice a week. In my late 20s and early 30s, I trained and taught a martial art. I was training 3 times a week and teaching once. Also rode off-road motorbikes, and unfortunately, I sustained a nasty leg injury in my early 30s, which put a stop to pretty well all of that. I didn't run again for the best part of 29 years.
Oh, wow.
But I joined a very serious bodybuilding gym in the early 80s in a basement right in the centre of Birmingham. And even though I trained really hard, I don't know whether it's genetics or I was doing something not quite right, or it was nutrition, because that wasn't a big thing then. I never saw any real results. And I stayed a member of several gyms, one at a time, of course, over the course of the years. I weight trained on and off most of my adult life, sometimes for periods of years at a time. At home, I've got a bench, 2 Olympic bars, a fair few plates, and 2 sets of dumbbells.
Amazing.
They're permanently set up in a bit of a cramped fashion in the garage. My place is pretty remote in the Welsh Hills on the border with England, and so travelling to a gym isn't practical at all. I've been working out from time to time for the last few years. I joined Parkrun in 2018, and managed to run, plod, the whole course after walking it and jeffing it, interval running, walking, after a year. And my best time before lockdown 1 was 47 and a bit. But that was down from an hour. So that's well, please. And
amazing improvement.
Yeah, I've lost a fair bit of weight in that time as well, which all helps. Anyway, that's my potted history, really.
Going back to the mentioning with the bodybuilding gym and not getting the results you were after, just out of interest, what results were you after at that point?
I wanted to be a monster.
Just in size and definition,
I wanted to be bulky. I went bulkier than I am. I mean, I'm pretty broad-shouldered anyway, and back then, because I hadn't filled out, you don't till you're 30 odd, do you? I don't think you reach your full potential as a male till you're early to mid 30s, and I was 20, so I was. So,
what point did you stop the training at that gym?
Oh, I can't remember. Probably in my mid-20s, so I've probably been there 4 or 5 years, I would say.
Okay. And then the training you did in the gyms after that, was there much structure to that, or
Only self-imposed structure.
And then obviously you mentioned the martial arts. Did that carry on after that point?
Oh yes. I was very serious about that. I had my own club. Brilliant. And I taught. And I really, really enjoyed that. And that also died when I came to Wales, because I couldn't be going back 3-4 times a week to Birmingham from here. No.
So the last, say, 10 years, obviously you mentioned just before we start recording that you've got the small freehold and there's a lot of work there in terms of just being generally active. Has there been much in the way of structured activity or sports or?
Well, park run, yes. Over the last 3 years. I used to, until lockdown 3.0, go 10-pin bowling twice a week, which some people would look down on as not being much exercise, but slinging a 14-pound bowling ball 60 to 100 times down an alley, it's quite hard. And it makes you move in ways you wouldn't normally move in your everyday life. Until lockdown 1, and shortly after lockdown 1, went to a Tai Chi class once a week. That's very beneficial because it's very yogic, and I'm not a bendy person at all. I'm like a plank, so that's always a challenge. I mean, there's 2 sides to it. There's the yogic side and the spiritual side and the martial side. The martial side isn't very at the front in this style of teaching, but it's always present. It's there in the background. But it's very beneficial to somebody of my stature and age, really, to try and stop seizing up. So I used to ride, until lockdown 3.0, I used to ride my motorbike at least once a week. And while people might not consider that to be much of an exercise, it's a big machine. It's 900 cc's. It's 260 kilo. So if you're manoeuvring it, either sat on it or by hand stood off it, that's a fair bit of weight. You've got to be careful and got to keep it balanced. And I mentioned my small holding. It's manual labour, 4 to 6 to 8 hours a day, depending on the season and the weather and the desperation, really, because there's fencing, there's hedging, there's mowing, there's everything. It's unbelievable, really. So I'm very active.
Sounds good.
Well.
So what was it then that made you think about starting the strength training again, or sort of downloading the ebook and starting to go through that?
It's very simple. I'm not I don't consider myself influenced in any way, shape or form by pop-up adverts on Facebook or any other media. I'm Mr. Just ignore that. Just, I know what they're about. I know what they're up to. I saw your advert. I don't know why, because people never do they? I thought, I'll have a look at that, which is massively unusual for me. So I opened it and saw what you got to say. And I've said before, I can't remember the adverts. I've searched for it and I can't find it. So I can't say what fired me to move on to buy the ebook. One of the things I do remember is thinking, although £10 isn't of great significance to me as an individual, I thought, I've lost more doing less, even if it doesn't turn out to be what I'm after or blah, blah. I bought the ebook, downloaded it and read it in its entirety, because that's the sort of person I am. And then I found out it was perfectly pitched at me at this point in my life. It ticked all of the boxes for me and came from someone, and I did do due diligence on you, checked out who you are and what you are. And I could tell from a past experience and life experience that you really do know what you're talking about. It was exactly what I needed right when I needed it. I've never had a coach before. And the difference is now I pretty much see this as my last real chance in life before, it's all over, really.
Do you elaborate on that a little bit in terms of what kind of chance are you seeing as a gift?
I'm 62. I'm overweight. I'm not as fit as I should be. I'm suffering from sarcopenia. I know I am. That was highlighted to me a few weeks ago when I did some decorating. And I'd been kidding myself in Tai Chi and what have you in daily life that getting up from bending down was difficult, almost impossible for me without support, because I was overweight. And I did this decorating, and I used a small 2-step stool to reach the ceiling or what have you. And I suddenly realized, and I had one of those, light bulb moments where I realized I was in denial. There's no doubt at all that I was wobbly on the step stool. I was I couldn't. I was struggling really badly to get up from kneeling without leaning on something and using my arms.
Yes.
And I thought, well, who do you think you're kidding? Because there's there's no point. I've got to bite the bullet and understand that unless I do something about it, I'm just going to get worse. Now, I was a chap who, in my 30s, when I was doing martial arts, people used to actually comment that I'd balance like a cat. And one of my favorite things, I used to take great delight in gyms on a leg press machine, sticking the pin in the bottom of the stack, and people would look and go, "Oh, hang on, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
And I'd do the entire stack.
Yeah.
Oh, not anymore.
Right.
No. So that's my last chance.
It does. It creeps up just slowly without really letting you know it's happening, and then suddenly, you suddenly start to find the things that felt easy become more challenging, and then let's say it's easy to write it off as just a natural part of getting older, but it doesn't need to be. So yeah, it's great that you've seen that and kind of wanting to take that step and take action now. And so having talked through that, then obviously it sounds like your goals and motivations have changed, because obviously before it was more about trying to get as bulky as possible. What's changed this time? Obviously it's related to the weakness you've noticed. Having gone through the kind of the goal planning stage within the ebook, what did you come up with for your main motivations, your primary goal, and your most likely barriers?
Well, my primary goal is absolutely halting or reversing sarcopenia, no doubt about it.
Yep.
And on the back of that, hopefully increasing my life expectancy, because it's something I have to, think about my stage in life. If I was actually, I've said it to a lot of people before all this, if I was actually now at 62 to get 10 good years, I'd be doing pretty good. I would. Another 10 good years where I can do pretty much anything I want, and I don't suffer severe illness or a long-lasting injury, then that's going to be a damn good result. It really is. Yeah. I could do with dropping about 2 stone, which is a fair old bit, but I've been losing weight steadily for quite a long time. And I'd love to. I actually think I've still got the potential to alter my entire body shape and get into the best shape possible, even at this age. I do think it's possible, and that's what I'd like to do. If I could slap on a couple of pounds of lean muscle in the process, that's all to the good. It really is.
You could have mentioned it earlier, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do is get across. Is I'm never too old to lift isn't about trying to get someone to have a 6-pack or look good with a top off. That might happen as a result, but it's more to try and enjoy time in the garden, enjoy time with grandkids, and not let the loss of muscle strength impact those elements of life. How about the barriers? Obviously, there's one huge kind of barrier to most people at the moment, which is the lockdowns and not being able to get into gyms. But is there anything else that you think is likely to stop you committing or cause the motivation to wane?
Well, neither of those things. But first of all, lockdown 3.0 doesn't. None of them had a great deal of effect on me, apart from I can't go bowling, I can't go to the cinema, can't go out to eat occasionally, and can't go to park run. And apart from that, I'm pretty self-contained. I mean, I wouldn't go to a gym, a commercial gym, because, as I said before, it's way too far, too much time. The biggest hurdles for me, and they won't stop me, I have to take them into consideration, long-standing non-lifting related injuries, of which I have quite a small catalogue. And I've spent years with them, so I know how to mitigate them really, and get round them really. Well, not get round them, but take them into consideration. So that's the thing.
And I suppose it's a bit like the example we used of, you weren't quite happy with the shoulders coming into that position where you to then squat down.
No, I can't do squats with a bar behind my back. Nope. But you've provided the answer in the form of a hex bar, which is a frame you stand inside, isn't it? I've ordered one, and I'm very happy that, should I get into trouble with that, I can just drop it. Perfect.
Definitely, and that's because the other option you can get is one called a safety bar, which has got it's the bar across, but it's got padded, not straps. It's a kind of 2 bars
yoke
out, and then you hold here.
Yeah.
But then you've got the same issue of without a rack to put it back into, or the safety bars at the bottom. Whereas the dumbbells or handles of the hex bar, like you say, you can just drop it when you feel like you're struggling.
I mean, for me, with bench and squat, the cost of I haven't really got the room for it, but the cost of a squat cage with safety bars is high. And with bench, I've got to be careful, and we've talked about this on the page, that I haven't got a spotter. So prudence comes into it. So the hex bar is, as far as I can see, apart from it's not in the best possible, the weight distribution won't be as perfect as if it's across your shoulders. It's a damn good compromise, really.
Yeah, and you can adapt your position as well, so you can perform more of a deadlift action whilst in the hex bar, and then you can go into the squat in the hex bar. You could also do your bent over rows in that position as well.
Oh, okay.
So if you find that the dumbbells aren't quite heavy enough to do that, so yeah, they're pretty versatile as well. Obviously, the only thing is you can't change the angle of the handles. They're always going to be forwards rather than side on, which, but generally in terms of building the strength of the muscles, it doesn't have too much of an impact. So going into some of the exercises then, how did you find putting together the program?
I'm very familiar with the standard exercises because I've weight trained most of my adult life, but there are one or two that are new to me. But because of my previous experience of understanding which groups they all fall into, it was pretty easy for me to pick them. I do know that it's good to vary your exercises from time to time, and so in future I'll change out a few of them, to get different angles and different slightly different movements, of course, within the categories. Yeah.
Good. And then, because we talked out a little bit, given your previous experience, obviously the eBook's designed to be the kind of the 12-week progress, and we start at just exploring the weights to find your 15 rep max to keep from pushing too much too soon. Obviously you're beyond that a little bit, so we started at kind of 8 rep max and trying to find good weights for all of those. How easy have you found it to kind of find those weights again?
It's a fairly simple process, but it has to go over several workouts. Now, Some exercises, like I've had to do the wood chopper with a dumbbell because I haven't got a suitable anchor point for a resistance band where I work out.
Yep.
And I've right from the get-go, 8.5 kilo, that's plenty.
Yep.
That's a new exercise to me, hitting muscles I haven't hit before, and I'm plenty, well, I wouldn't say plenty sore. I can notice soreness the next day, you know, delayed onset muscle soreness. And I'm not about to cripple myself, you know, for the sake of progress. So that'll stay at that weight for a while until I get the form nice, and I'm not getting the soreness. For some time, I got 27.4 kilo on my bench press bar.
Yeah.
And I went with the idea of going to failure on 8 reps over 3 sets. So fail, set 1, 8, rep 8, blah, 2, 3. And of course, that's a completely different kettle of fish to how I'd been working out at home. So I did my first workout on that and thought, no, I've got at least 5 or maybe another 8 in the tank at the end of set 3. That was before you told me that, and I found out I misread or misunderstood what was in the book, that I was supposed to fail on each set, not just the third one. So that changed the whole thing.
It doesn't always happen, but
that's the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so that changed my perspective. So I went back and I put it up to 30 odd on the second set because I forgot on the first set, and then that wasn't any good because I was still easily hitting 8 on set 3. Yeah. So yesterday I put it up to 41 kilo. I just about got out rep 8 on set 1.
Yeah,
I thought that's close. That'll do. Set 2, I started struggling on rep 7. Yeah, and I really struggled on rep 8, which was fine. Then set 3, the last 3 reps, I really struggled, which is, I think, about right. That's where I should be, really. I've got a bit of soreness this morning in my deltoids and my pecs. Yeah. Not a bit sore, which is grand.
Yeah, it's always a good sign that you've worked appropriately to get a positive response.
Squats we've talked about. I need to go up massively on the weight. From I'm on 17 kilo with dumbbells, which is nothing. You know, it's no good to me. Bent over row is the same. I'm on 20 kilo with that because that's all I got at the moment. Yeah. I've just had yesterday. Just had a little 4-foot Olympic bar delivered, and I'll be loading that up. Yeah, I'll be loading that up so I can do bent over row with some decent weight.
That's great.
The others, like overhead walk, they're new to me, and a dumbbell of 8.5 kilo is well plenty. And the split squat with kettlebell. I've only got one kettlebell. It's 8 kilo. And I had what I describe as a Rocky Balboa moment when I did that exercise. It really pushed me. It really did. And of course, that's exactly the movement that I'm weak on. You know, getting up from prone or kneeling is precisely what's been hit there. Do you get my Rocky Balboa thing? No? The theme tune, Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
And one of the lyrics, just a man and his will to survive. Yeah. I was in there in the middle of that exercise thinking, my mind doesn't want to finish this, but I know my body can. And that's something you've got to deal with. And I had that over all 3 sets, that my mind was saying, no. my conscious mind was saying, you will, and you will, because you can. You know, if my conscious mind gets a message to say this is dodgy, dangerous, or damaging, then I will stop, of course. But I won't push myself beyond sensibleness. But I think you do have a mental game that your mind's saying, "Oh, I don't want to do this," and you have to say to it, "Yep, you're going to have to."
because one point I was going to come back to was that every now and then, and I haven't kind of built it into the program, but it's often worth, if you get to say 8 or 15 and you think you've only got a couple left, you sometimes test it and see.
Yeah.
Often you think you've only got 2 left, and actually you get another 6.
Well, with my original, my second weight at bench press, funnily enough, I did that because I know about that. And I got another 4 before I was seriously starting to struggle. So I went to 12 on 30 kilo. But with 41, oh no, none in the tank. That's it.
And it doesn't sound like it's a problem for you, but a lot of people do. They find a safe weight that feels a bit challenging, but it's not necessarily challenging enough. But because it feels slightly challenging and they feel happy with it, they just stay at that and never quite progress. And it's not that you don't get anything from it, but you might as well be more efficient with your time and aspire to be stronger so that you're more robust and resilient outside of the gym, which is what we're aiming for. Or how many workouts have you done now?
That's my third workout yesterday. Third workout yesterday.
Because did you say on the group you're splitting them into 2 smaller ones, so just doing 1 pair at a time, or are you doing 2 pairs within the same workout now?
No, 2 pair. Definitely 2 pair.
Perfect.
Definitely 2 pair. Yeah.
And aiming for two workouts a week or 3?
Well, I'd like to do 3, but physically, I don't think I'm up for it yet.
No, fine.
It's my recovery time. That's the problem.
Good. And please don't feel you have to say anything at this stage if you haven't noticed anything. But given it's just been three sessions, getting back into it, have you noticed any kind of differences kind of outside the gym in other than the kind of the muscle aches afterwards?
Physically, not particularly. I think I'm carrying myself in a better posture, probably, and I also think that I have a better mental outlook. But the posture could be due to the mental outlook improving. To think, yep, I'm doing something. I'm feeling better about myself. I haven't noticed anything outside of in my normal life.
The mental side of it is often the bigger change. It's your muscles won't necessarily adapt straight away. It's a lot of it's how your brain controls the muscles, and then the fact that you feel more confident that you're doing more and you're pushing yourself and you're working towards a goal. That can be massive, and then you'll start to notice some physical improvements later on.
Absolutely, definitely.
Good. And then I suppose the last thing is this: if anyone who's either watching this or reading the post if there's any thinking of getting started, is there any tips or any advice that you'd give to anyone?
Right. I'd just say 2 things.
Yep.
I'd paraphrase an old saying, and I'd say, if asked the best time to start progressive resistance training, the answer would be 20 years ago. That's the best time. Yep. What's the second best time? Today.
Yep.
That's to just go and get on and get started. That's the big thing.
Yep.
And from my own personal perspective, to steal a line from another film, because I do like my films, is that I would say, anyone for doing the entire stack one last time? If you know.
And I remember you putting that in the group.
Yeah. Well, that's out of Bad Boys, where they decide to just do it one last time. And it's, for me, it's all about, this isn't the end. You know, I'm 62. I mean, things have come a long way since my youth, when people of 50 were pretty well on the scrap heap. But no, I've got to move on. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to go quietly into the night.
No. Fantastic. Good. So would you mind us kind of checking back in with you at some point in a few weeks' time to see how you're getting on and what weights you're lifting at that point? And
I'll be only too pleased.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your time and thank you for coming on and having a chat.
No problem, Chris. Thank you very much.